Building a rail line, of course, takes a lot of steel. So I'd like to ask if you do have an estimate of the volume of steel that would be used in the Alto project, the number of tons or a range.
In terms of steel, it's probably a bit more than 600,000 tons of steel. A third of it would be for the tracks themselves.
600,000 tons is quite a large volume. The government held a famous rail summit in the steel town of Hamilton this summer in August. However, I did ask an order paper question of the government back in June of 2024, and this government acknowledged that it does not and has not historically tracked whether federally funded infrastructure projects use Canadian-produced steel. Specific mechanisms will also put in place to track, verify, and publicly report the portion of Canadian steel used in this project versus steel from elsewhere.
And the intent is to try to focus and to supply basically all materials as locally as possible.
Are there mechanisms that are actually going to track and verify?
Yes, we will definitely track the local content and Canadian content for the transparency of the process down the road, both for steel but also for other components.
Would also commit to providing Parliament with periodic updates on that steel sourcing, again, the origin, the volume, the value, so that those claims can be independently verified.
Definitely, and I think the intent is to do it and provide an annual report on local content.
I know that one concern with large infrastructure projects is often with some of the early procurement decisions, you kind of lock in, maybe unintentionally, suppliers. And so what safeguards is also going to put in place to ensure that that early stage procurement doesn't intentionally crowd out Canadian steel suppliers before the full project approvals are in place? I mean, having worked in a large infrastructure project in the private sector prior to being elected to Parliament, I know that this can happen, particularly with those early decisions.
We are not going to procure steel until sometime, probably not this year. Maybe start the process later next year. We're not committed. No contracts are in place.
Notwithstanding the fact that you don't have the contracts in place, there is the assurance that this will be Canadian-produced steel.
Well, I think we will definitely respect the Buy Canadian policy.
From Toronto extending to Quebec City, what is the timeline on those?
We don't have a very precise timing today because we haven't done sufficient work, but potentially 2 years after the initial construction period.
So potentially a 6-year wait for people in Toronto.